Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retina Channel Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Keyvan Koushan. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. John Kitchens, one of the most innovative and forward-thinking retina specialists in the United States. Dr. Kitchen completed his medical degree at Indiana University School of Medicine, his ophthalmology residency at the Iowa University, and his vitreoretinal fellowship at the world-renowned Bascom Palmer Eye Institute in Miami. He has developed several innovative surgical techniques, received American Society of Retina Specialists Red Buckler Award on three separate occasions, and has been recognized among the OSN Retina Top 150 Innovators in Medical and Surgical Retina. Many of you know Dr. Kitchens for his expertise in medical and surgical retina, but in recent years, he has also become a passionate advocate for the practical uses of artificial intelligence in medicine. After hearing his fascinating presentations on AI on both Aspen Retina Detachment Society meeting and also on the Canadian Retina Society meeting recently in Toronto, I invited him to join us for a conversation about how these rapidly evolving technologies are changing the way we learn, we teach, we communicate, and practice ophthalmology or retina specifically. In this episode, Dr. Kitchens shares his hands-on experience using platforms such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, other emerging AI tools. We discuss how ophthalmologists, trainees, and researchers can leverage these technologies to enhance their education, their teaching, their patient care, and how they do things day in, day out. Importantly, we also explore limitations of AI and the importance of verification and human oversight, and how he believes these technologies may be headed in the years coming our way. Whether you're an AI enthusiast or simply curious about how these things might be in your, maybe fitting in your professional life, I think you'll find this episode engaging and highly practical. Please enjoy my conversation with Dr. Kitchens.
Keyvan, how
Don,
are you?
how are you?
Good. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for having me
Good,
on.
good to see you as well. Thank you for coming on the Retina Channel podcast.
Absolutely.
It's lovely to have you. Lovely to have you. Thank you for joining me after your busy week and doing so many things. So it's a pleasure to have you on the Retina Channel podcast, John.
Oh, awesome. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. So I told you this before. I enjoyed listening to your AI and ophthalmology talk twice now. One in the Aspen Retina Detachment Society meeting, and then more
Yes.
evolved version of it a year later, recently at the Canadian Retina Society CRS meeting in Toronto. And you kindly agreed to come to the podcast. And this is audio and video, but maybe more audio audience will be available for this. Maybe talk about it. We can just have a sort of informal discussion about your take on it, things you think people should know about AI in ophthalmology, and we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, so Kevin, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with AI and ophthalmology is not ophthalmology specific applications. So I've
Hmm.
talked to friends who have actually had an opportunity to use patient tracking type things, OCT analysis, AI, automated scribing. This is none of that. This is just off the shelf commercial AI. And I got an interest in it about 3 years ago when I showed up to one of my clinics and one of my scribes said to me, "Hey, have you seen this thing where you can just type in a, prompt and it'll make a picture?" And I was like, "Get out of here. That's like can't actually work." And it was Dolly. And I started playing around with Dolly and I was like, "This is amazing." And shortly thereafter, ChatGPT kind of became more of a public offering. And so I started playing around with ChatGPT. I think it was like the first or second iteration of ChatGPT after it was available to the public. And
Hmm.
it was rough, but you could see this amazing power to just do the things that I could probably do already, but do them faster and better, or
Hmm.
potentially better. And now that's evolved until, here we are in May of 2026, and I've just kind of dove into all of these consumer-based AI platforms to
Hmm.
just see what I can do with them, what I can make them do. Funny things if
Hmm.
I'm sending something humorous to friends, but when in the context of ophthalmology, like, how can I use this to better take care of patients, which includes better diagnoses, better communication with patients so they have a better understanding of their disease state,
Mm-hmm.
and then make better presentations,
Mm-hmm.
convey and teach better, at meetings like the amazing Canadian Retina Society meeting, which is still my favorite international meeting. That and Flow Retina are neck and neck for my favorite meetings.
Thank you.
And it has been just amazing. It continues to evolve. Every week, I'm finding something new or different than that AI can do that just is amazing.
Wonderful. So let's just maybe divide our discussion into platforms you use. You mentioned ChatGPT just now. So what type of options are available to someone like me, who like an ophthalmologist or a medical student, someone who is in healthcare? What platform is available to them they can use? There are many obviously out there. What things are you familiar with? And also what things we can do outside of the commercial scribe or things that are designed for a specific OCT machine or EMR software. What are things we can do to make our lives better, make our patient care better, our education better? So, what are the applications? What are the platforms?
Yeah, so I've played with almost all of the major platforms. I've used basically DeepSeek, which is kind of the Chinese version of ChatGPT. I've been on ChatGPT for years. Claude, which is kind of my newest primary platform that I use. I feel like Claude right now is the best that you can get, especially for creating presentations, especially
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint slides, and not confabulating. That's a big problem with this, with AI, is they call them hallucinations, where the AI will
Yes.
just make things up. And it's been a big problem with ChatGPT, and it still is a big problem with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone more to Claude now, and moved away from ChatGPT. I still have premium accounts on both.
Mm-hmm.
And then Google Gemini. And Google Gemini is really nice for images. I use it a lot for video creation, usually not anything related to ophthalmology, but it's just really good at creating image or videos through VO or Google
Mm-hmm.
Flow. It's sort of my third place finisher. So first, by far right now, Claude. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's the best, and you probably do need to pay for the mid-tier version if you want to get all of the really, good attributes of Claude.
Yes.
My second place finisher would be ChatGPT, knowing that there's a lot of hallucinations there. Does great with imagery, not as good with creating talks and slides.
Mm-hmm.
And then third is Google Gemini. And the reason I really like Claude is that it does really great PowerPoint presentations. It doesn't confabulate or hallucinate as much, and it integrates with Gmail and
Mm-hmm.
Google Calendar and Google Drive. And that's very powerful when you're a Gmail user, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do things like make an agenda, go back through your emails and say, hey, prepare this or that. So a lot of times I'll use it as a travel assistant. So when I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to a meeting like the Canadian Retina Society meeting, I'll drop my flight information in, I'll ask it to search in my email for any talks that I'm giving and just prepare an agenda for me. And this sounds trivial, but it's actually a big deal. When you're traveling across time zones, you can ask it to correct for local time. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to Flow Retina and you have people emailing you and saying, "Are you free at 1 p.m. on Saturday?"
Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile that with East Coast time to
Yes.
Florence time. And so if you've got an agenda that you're keeping track of, and it can do real time updates to your schedule. So as you add things, you can say, hey, make sure you keep this up to date by searching my Gmail on a regular basis and adding things that, I've agreed to.
Interesting. So
So that integration is great.
do you need to use Google's own Gmail app or their own interface, or you can use your iPhone mail app or Mac mail app and still use Gemini?
Yeah, so if you're using a Gmail account, it will interface with that account. So you might use your iPhone's mail app, but as long as it's your primary email account is a Gmail account, it will
Mm-hmm.
interface with that Gmail. And there's probably additional plugins that you can get it to work with Outlook and other things. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big Google, app user. So I use Google Calendar, I use Gmail a lot, I use Google Drive a lot. And so having a platform like Claude that interfaces with that, and believe it or not, seemingly interfaces better with Google stuff than Google Gemini does. Google
Interesting. So
Gemini.
Claude is your
Yeah,
favorite.
Claude's my
Okay.
favorite by far.
Claude is
And
your
what I've
favorite.
started doing lately that I just love in the clinic is if I see an interesting case, and this is really amazing, if I
Hmm.
see an interesting case and I want to make a teaching slide deck on that, I
Yes.
will, you have the phone app and you can actually push a button and talk into the phone app and it will do a voice dictation. And so I'll basically give it a little case vignette. I'll say, this is a 76-year-old patient who presents with this and this and this finding. Here's her visual acuity, treatment history, if they have a treatment history. And I'll say, I'm going to upload de-identified images and I want you to make a PowerPoint talk about this patient's condition.
Wow. You just say it. You just essentially tell it what you want to do, and it creates a slide for you.
And then what it'll do is it will wait, and then I go to my work desktop where I've
Yes.
downloaded the images from the patient and
Yeah.
de-identify those. It's important to be HIPAA compliant. De-identify those
Yeah.
images, drop them into the same conversation because these are
On a
web-based
different
steps
computer, and like you
from the
use your phone
computer.
from the computer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
in about 10 minutes, it will actually prepare a beautiful PowerPoint talk that
Hmm.
shows the case and then demonstrates, talks about what you want it to talk about. And if it's something that you want it to go and find the current literature,
Yeah.
it will go out and resource information from the current literature to support the point you're wanting to talk about. So, for example, Vabysmo for PEDs. I had a great case of a PED that resolved very rapidly with Vabysmo, and I said, I want to show this case. Here's the slides. Here's the history. Here's the pictures, and then I want you to create, slides from PubMed research and published research that supports the
Hmm.
fact that Vabysmo is more effective for resolution of pigment epithelial detachments. And it
Yes.
made a 15 slide presentation.
Wow, wow. So that's fantastic. So I should give Claude a try. I've never actually used Claude. I've used Copilot from Microsoft. I've used
Yep.
that. I've used Gemini and Google LM, which I found helpful, part of Gemini, I think. And ChatGPT is my main driver. I use the
Yep.
mid-tier version, as you said. But Claude sounds like that definitely something you got to try.
And ChatGPT will make great images. So one of the things I
Mhm.
use ChatGPT for is its image creation is actually better than anything else at this point. So I
Mhm.
love it when I have a talk and I have, let's say, three different slides that I want to combine the data into one. Or I gave
Mhm.
a good DRCR network talk, top pearls of the DRCR network. And in my old version, each thing I wanted to kind of show for each study was on a different slide. So it'd be visual acuity, then it would be OCT, and then it'd be, retreatment criteria. And you can take those three slides and you can drop them into ChatGPT and you can say, make this all into one slide,
Mm.
retain all the information, keep the color scheme and the fonts all similar, and the background similar, and it will combine those three slides into one. So you'll have, a beautiful OCT that's or visual acuity, graph on the top. You'll have an OCT one below it, and there'll be a call out for the retreatment criteria. And it's so beautiful and does such a better job than I could do by resizing and remaking those graphs
Mhm.
that it's incredibly powerful to be able to take multiple slides and turn them into one slide.
Wow. Um, and then the different tiers of subscription to these platforms, right? There's one free and one, the second level is a $20 a month that I have for ChatGPT and my wife has and my kids have. So, and there's another level that is like 10 times more expensive. What's the difference of that super high level versus a mid-tier level?
Yeah, so in my understanding, and I'm no AI expert, but my understanding is that it gives you more tokens. So tokens are really kind of AI's currency to be able to generate the things that you want. Now, creating an image doesn't take a lot of tokens. Creating a slide deck doesn't take a ton of tokens. But if you're someone who's a hardcore coder and you're making software, websites or creating software, you need a lot of horsepower and you need kind of an unlimited number of tokens. So having that $200 level tier actually enables you to do that. I did actually use that for a while when it was all about video creation, because video
Mm.
creation requires a lot of processing power, a lot of tokens. So when I was really into making AI generated videos, I would go to the highest tier. Typically in ChatGPT, now I've backed off to the $20 tier, but also with Google, because the Google Flow platform is the one that generates the AI videos. And when they first launched that capability, it was pretty amazing, but it was also very expensive to get the longest, highest quality videos with
Hmm.
audio. Now it's come down. It's much, much cheaper as far as that goes.
So you can do a $20 tier. You can make videos as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go above
Okay.
the $20 tier for anything on any of these platforms.
Gotcha. So things that and how like keeping us up to date about like what's happening in retina and ophthalmology. Do you find these platforms up to date enough? Like if you want to learn about I don't know PCV for example, if you want to learn about what's the new treatment or how is Vabysmo faring for PED treatment or hard exudates in DME. Do you feel these are up to speed?
100% they are. And I had to
Hmm.
replace Google for my searches for these things because it will go out and find the most up-to-date information. It will find PubMed cited information. And what I love about it now is that I can ask it to put it into a PowerPoint. So we're so
Mm,
accustomed to seeing slides and getting digestible data and not really having to read extensively like an article, and it'll do a
hmm.
great meta-analysis of whatever you want it to do, a PCV summary or whatever. But I find that
Hmm.
it's so much more powerful when it's put into a 15 slide PowerPoint. And then
Hmm.
I can quickly review the PowerPoint, and it's so much of what we're used to seeing at these conferences. I can review the PowerPoint, it will reference everything, and then I download the
Wow.
PowerPoint and I can drop it into a Google Drive and I just have that talk. That's a
For
talk.
your own reference or talk to
Yeah.
someone else. Yeah.
Or a talk if I'm giving another talk somewhere. So I've
Right.
accumulated in about a month and a half about 50 different talks, either
Right.
patient-based cases or talks about certain conditions that have helped to keep me up to date. I'll tell you the
And
other thing
Claude is
that
your driver for this.
Claude's my
Claude is.
driver for that. Yeah. And then if
Yeah.
I have a slide that I want to rework visually, I'll just take a
Right.
screen capture of that slide in a 16 by 9 and I'll drop it over into ChatGPT and I'll ask it to basically, make it, better, more aesthetically appealing. Although you can tell Claude if there's a problem with an image on one of your slides, you can say, Claude, go back and fix slide 11. The justification's not right, or
Mm.
you stretch the image too much. It doesn't look natural, and it will go back and fix that in
Hmm.
your talk. The thing that's been most amazing, though, and this really just overwhelmed me, was I had a patient this week that came in, young African American patient. She's in her mid to late 30s, and she had this vascular tortuosity and intraretinal hemorrhages in the far temporal periphery of both eyes.
Hmm.
And we did hemoglobin electrophoresis. We did a variety of coagulability workup type things. And
Hmm.
I thought I would just put her images and her history into Claude and say, make this a mystery case. And I would
Hmm.
just present it and it would be one of these unknowns.
Hmm.
Not visually significant. She's still 20/20, no problems whatsoever. And it came back and said this patient likely has I think it was called a COL4A mutation, which is
Wow.
a basement membrane mutation.
Collagen for yeah.
Yeah, collagen in the
Wow.
basement membrane, and it's associated with familial retinal arterial tortuosity. And she needs
Wow.
to have genetic testing done. And I actually sent this to Nina Barakal, my friend, and I said, "Hey, Nina, have you ever heard of this?" And she said, "Yeah, the patient needs to be genetically tested." I sent it to my partners; they'd never heard of it before.
I never heard of that. Yeah, I thought sickle
And
cell. You're talking about sickle cell. Yeah. You
yeah,
know?
and so I called the patient up and I said, "Hey, listen, I got to say, I put some of your information into de-identified into the AI, and it thinks you have this condition, and I think we should get some testing done to see if you have this. And it has systemic implications, the condition that she has."
Yeah.
And
Sounds like it.
so I
Wow.
was amazed today. I had a patient that has had progressive retinal thinning. So we've seen her in 2023. She's in her mid 60s. She's unfortunately institutionalized because she has some, issues with schizophrenia and whatnot. And basically, she had this progressive retinal thinning. We tested her for vitamin A deficiency. She wasn't on any phenothiazines or anything such as that. And it turns out that she's on actually a newer version of a thorazine derivative. And it just recently in 2025 was reported to have retinal toxicity and cause retinal
Wow.
thinning. And it looked at her medication list because I uploaded a picture of it and identified that as a potential toxicity. In the light of all of her normal labs, it said this is likely what she has, and she needs
Wow.
to stop the medicine. So,
Wow.
and it was something that has literally just been talked about in 2025
So
in retinal
obviously
surgery.
you're scanning every report, everything like so
Yeah, I
everything
put
that's
in
published in the
yeah, it's
background.
scanning everything, and it is just absolutely amazing, especially for reconciling things like medicines that we might not be aware of that have these potential side effects and complications. I mean, it is. If I have a mystery now, I'll tell you, Kevon, I am uploading the images to Claude and saying,
Wow.
"Hey, give me some feedback. What do you think this looks like?" And I've been surprised. I've had some where it says, "I don't know." And that's the beauty of Claude.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to make things up and say, this is this condition. It'll just
Yeah.
say, this is what it most likely fits with, but other than that, there's no good answer for this.
Fascinating, fascinating. So that's great. You're talking about hallucinations, ChatGPT. This morning, I was trying to catch up on the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I was saying, and I asked it how many teams are still in there, and then they told me this and that, that, and Montreal Canadiens were not there. So are you sure? I think Montreal Canadiens are playing tomorrow night. Think harder. And then he said, "Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. They're actually playing Buffalo Sabres tomorrow night." And I said, "This is a fairly major mistake. Don't you want to check your resources?"
Yeah. It is. You cannot trust Chat, and I wouldn't even trust Claude. Do your background research on it, but
Yeah.
it sure feels like it's better than what ChatGPT is, and better than what it was in previous iterations.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. So you mentioned a couple of nice uses of these AI platforms. What other things comes to your mind if someone wants to use them? Presentations, obviously, looking up, keeping up to speed, mystery cases. What other things would you use them
Oh,
for?
great for patient handouts. I mean, I used to make patient handouts and would take hours to make a post-operative handout that had pictures of the drops we use and how to use the drops. Now you can
Hmm.
just go in and you can voice dictate, this is what I want, this handout to say, make it sound good. And it will revise your words. It will put it out in a nice aesthetic. And then if you want to drop your logo of your practice onto it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
will customize it with your practice logo and give it a really nice look. And then you can print that out for your patient. And it literally can take less than 2 minutes to do that.
Mm.
I do use ChatGPT for this as an actual translator. So if I have anybody that speaks a different language, you have this conversational mode within the AIs, ChatGPT and Claude, where you can actually, have it speak and listen to you, and I'll turn it on and I'll be in the room with the patient. I'll say, hey, this patient speaks Spanish. When I speak English, translate it to Spanish. When they speak Spanish, translate it to English. And then I just talk to the AI and it pauses when I'm done, and then it will say the entire thing to the patient in
Right
Spanish.
on the spot.
And then it
Yeah.
will pause and listen for the patient to respond, and then it will tell me what the patient said. So you really
Hmm.
don't need a translator anymore.
Wow. Wow. Fantastic. This is really, and it changes. This is so new. I'm thinking about it. This whole AI story is like just a couple of years old.
It is, it's amazing. I'm trying to find ways that it can add to my surgical video editing. And
Hmm.
it's still not there yet. There's a type of Claude called Claude Design, and it's available
Okay.
within Claude. You have to do a little research on it and kind of know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
what I love is it will make PowerPoint slides with animations.
Mm.
So I wanted to do a talk where I showed how a vitrectomy system worked. And
Yeah.
I told it, like, this is what I want you to, this slide is what this talk's going to be about. It'll ask you questions. Is this for a retina specialist? Is this for residents? Is this for med students? Is this for the lay public? How long do you want the talk to be? How in depth do you want it to be? Do you want it to be about the surgeries or about the equipment? And you answer those questions. And then it, after about 15 minutes, gives you a beautiful PowerPoint talk with cross-sectional animation of how a cutter works, where you can
Wow.
see the blade within the blade, guillotine action, how vitreous comes in and gets cut up into smaller pieces and gets sucked out into the cutter. I mean, it's a little rudimentary. It's two-dimensional, cross-sectional, but it is amazing. And something like this would have taken me days to make back in
Yeah.
the old days with animation.
Wow. Wow. Fascinating. This is so good. So, have you covered everything, Dr. Kitchens? Anything else you want to add to this wonderful discussion?
Yeah, I will say the other thing is, as an avid traveler and somebody who loves going to meetings, if you're ever in a city and you're like, what am I going to do? And what is there to do around my hotel? You can
Yeah.
just upload that information to the AI and it will make you a walking map with the most
Welcome
interesting
on.
things to see. And
Yeah.
about a year ago, we were at your Retina and we had it make a walking map through Paris and had
Yeah.
stops throughout Paris. And it allowed me to upload that to my Google Maps so that we could actively follow our Google Maps from site to site. It's
Wow.
really great if you're someplace and you want to know what there is to do or see around, where you're at, or good places to eat and other things
Yeah.
like that.
When you're meeting, that sounds good. Recently, I discovered just a couple of days ago, we a workout a trainer. So I have a little home gym. So I took pictures of it and uploaded it to ChatGPT. And so these are my equipment. Tell me a half an hour workout routine. And so it gave me all these things in text. So it told me do this and do this and do the series. And I said, show this to me in picture. Show this to me in picture. And then it created a one-page summary of a person who kind of looked like me doing everything.
Oh my,
So one
it's
page, I could put that, I printed that page, put it on my gym, and I just followed the instructions as pictures, It was great.
It is absolutely amazing. And
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm just driving in the car, I'll go into conversational mode and I'll just have a conversation with it about, whatever's going on. I'll say, hey, listen, this Apellis was just bought by Biogen, tell me about that acquisition.
Oh,
And it
wow.
will
Okay.
carry on a conversation with you about the acquisition. You can ask questions and it'll
Yeah.
give you publicly available information, but it will
Right.
kind of be able to talk to you and give you some thoughts and data hands free.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Fantastic. Dr. Kitchens, thank you as always. You're a fantastic, amazing speaker, very engaged at the forefront of technology. Thank you so much for coming to Retina Channel Podcast at the end of your work week and telling us about your uses of AI.
Thank you, Kayvon. I hope I'll get to see you again and give the third iteration of the AI talk where I promise you I'll probably have some new stuff that you can
I
do with
look forward
AI.
to that. I'm sure that will be the case. Thank you so much, John. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Retina Channel podcast. And I want to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. John Kitchens for coming to the show and sharing his insights and experiences on the use of AI in our field. And as you heard today, artificial intelligence is evolving at a very rapid pace. And I hope this conversation has provided you with some practical ideas and perhaps triggered you to explore how AI can be incorporated into your practice if it already hasn't. As always, thank you for listening and your continued support of Retina Channel Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your colleagues and also leaving a review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, a housekeeping item. The Retina Channel is taking a break for the rest of the summer, and the next episode will be published in September with another trailblazer in our field. Until then, I'm Keyvan Koushan, and thank you for listening.